right? All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much. Salam, salam. Introduction to QA automation. My name is Armas Kanfu. For those of you who are new to me and to my stuff, I run supersqa.com. I'm a senior software engineer in test, SDET. I've been doing that for about 11 years now. I used to work for a company called check.com for like the last 11 years pretty much until just last November. And I do teach QA automation. I help people get into the QA field, whether grow from manual testing to automation or even break into the tech field from any background. That's kind of my specialty, I guess, because I'm a self-taught programmer, so I really can really relate to people that are teaching themselves to program and basically to get a career in tech. So that's who I am. So this is what I plan to talk about today. Just intro to the field. So the people here with us today, some people are manual testers trying to grow into automation. Some people are just exploring careers, and some people might even be in automation, but because I'm going to talk about AI, they might be curious about AI because I've joined a webinar like this before because they totally advertised saying AI, even though they talked about AI for 2 minutes, which was quite disappointing. But people might have been here because of that, so I'll do my best to give some meaningful insight about AI, what I think, and things like that. All right. So that's what we're going to do. And later on, I have a quick gift for you. I'll talk about my bootcamp. I have a live bootcamp where everything you learned today, you're going to have to go implement it. You're going to have to learn the actual skills. And I have programs for you to be able to learn that. So I'll talk about that if you do want to work with me, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be talking about selling stuff all the time. Not at all, actually. I'm only going to talk about it at the end. The goal for me is really for you to understand one, what automation is, right? That's the most important one. What is automation? Because a lot of people to call me, talk to me saying, hey, what is it, by the way? So I want you to understand, get a whole picture of what automation is, and then what do I need to do to become an automation engineer? What are the skill sets that are needed for me to become an automation engineer? So those two things are the key components that I want you to get out of this, and then that I'm hoping you are going to get out of this. All right. Okay. So intro to the QA field. So this part here, the first two parts here, I'll go pretty fast because I want to get into the actual demo of the automation, and then the AI part. I want to make sure I have enough time for that. And I also have a full other like hour and a half or hour just talking about what the QA field is. Why is it so awesome? And the link is right here. I'll send you guys the recording of this video. I will also send you guys the PDF of this slide. So you will have this link and this link on YouTube that will focus about why the field is so awesome, right? So it talks about why my opinion of the field and why I think it is great. So that's why I'm going to go through it quite fast, right? So what is QA, QE? It is basically a field of quality assurance, quality engineering, right? That's what QE stands for, quality engineering. Another term is SDET. If you are in automation, SDET, which is software development engineer in test, that was my official title. That's what that it is, right? And in this video, you will talk about why is it a great career, what are the responsibilities, what are the types of keyways, manual versus automation, and such things for those who are totally new. But a lot of you guys actually are working in testing already and wants to grow into automation. So just quickly, why QA, QE? It's one of the easiest ways to enter into the tech field. I think that's my opinion, but also I've heard about a lot of people saying that it's just really easy to break in because the barrier to entry is not that bad. And once you're in, it opens a lot of doors. You don't have to, like, I've done automation for 10 years, but I'm in a unique situation where I don't just test, I actually do a lot of scripting, production grade scripting that actually contribute to the team a lot more than just testing. And if I want to go into different directions, like the door is wide open because you get to work with so many people, you get to see what other people do, so you kind of can target at different directions into DevOps, into engineering management, into release management, whether it's technical or not. It opens a lot of doors. I think that's actually one of the most important benefits of QA automation. The fact that you get to work with so many different people, and you're going to gain experience and skills throughout the years that it opens so many doors, right? The industry is growing, even though there are people thinking AI is going to wipe it out. But it just when we get to the AI part, you will see that just doesn't make sense. AI is creating a lot of apps, a lot of software. That means a lot of software needs to be tested. In fact, there's a lot of bugs being created right now because of AI. Everybody's saying there's going to be a cycle that people are going to need QA a lot more than before because it's just people are outputting so much software so fast using AI. A lot of bugs are being outputted to the world. So the testing got to be ramped up. But we will use AI to test. That's going to be the benefit. It has a great work-life balance, and it has a very clear impact in our society, in our company, and directly in our pockets. So just a quick test cases. So test cases when you are a QA, you test something, and when you test something, a test case is what is that particular thing you're testing, functionality wise, look wise, a feature or something like that. Like so, a specific thing you test. So, for example, if we're looking at Facebook.com, I chose Facebook.com for the example because everybody knows Facebook.com. A test case, some test cases in Facebook.com will be like, kind of valid user login. Does the wrong password show correct error message? Kind of logged in user post a picture. Kind of logged in user post a video. Kind of logged in user send message. Is there a heading visible? Is it spelled correctly? Is the correct? So whatever it's supposed to do, does it do it that way? Does it look like the way it's supposed to look like? So that is really a test case. I have different test cases. Now that's Facebook.com, the website. Facebook.com, the mobile app, the web app, mobile app. A lot of those test cases will be applicable, but there are above more test cases that are specific to mobile, right? Notifications, do they work? Location service, do they work? Does calling work? Does the color of the buttons, the format, the structure, how it's located, everything, does it work? Does it do what it's supposed to do? So it's based on requirements. There's a requirement the app is supposed to do this. There's a requirement the app is supposed to look like this. Does it look like that? Does it do that? That is the whole point of testing. That's what we do. That's part of it, really. We'll talk about it later, but that's just, I know the word testing sounds like we're just testing, but depending on the culture of the company, I'm sure some companies have culture where testers are just focused on just testing. But in my experience, I am an engineer, right? So I'm a test engineer, but I still have to coordinate so many things and connect with different teams and manage things and basically just a lot more responsibilities just testing, making sure things work. In fact, the last couple of years, I didn't test anything. I've been writing a lot of code, but not really testing. All right. So those are examples of test cases. Another one, demo store.spursql.com. This is a sample web app that I created. You guys can create on your machine, called totally free. It's WordPress website. I'll show you the demo we're going to do is going to be on this site, demostore.supersql.com. A verified user can register. Verify an existing user cannot create another account with the same email. Uh, make sure the correct error message shows up when something you purposefully create an error and make sure the correct message actually shows up. Those are kinds of test cases. So I have a slide here saying demo, but let's talk about automation and we'll do a demo shortly after that. So automation is basically all the test cases I just talked about, right? When we're testing them, we go to the website. A person would go there, we click on things, we type into things, we click, and we can see what's happening, and we verify it is working or not manually. That's what manual testing. So in automation testing, you take all those steps, whatever you have to do. You say, go here, click there, type that, do this, check this actually happened. Right? All of those things, whatever we do manually, we're going to write code that will actually do all of those things on our behalf, basically. That's all what automation is. So it is coding. So every step we take, we simulate it inside of a code. And there are specific tools that would allow us to do that. Basically, there's a tool called Selenium, and there's a tool called Playwright, and there is Cypress. Those three, there's more, but those three are popular. And Selenium is OG. It is super popular. Playwright is like a new kid on the block. Very powerful, gaining popularity like crazy. I still recommend Selenium for beginners because it still dominates the market. So those things would open a browser and would do things that a human would have done. That's the whole point of automation. You write code that tests other code. You write code that will do everything that a human would manually do. Simulates a real life scenarios like high traffic, load using code, high traffic and load. So in automation, there is different kinds. A lot of the examples I showed you right now are basically functionality tests, and another side is performance tests. You want to test your application can handle situations where there's tons of traffic coming in. I put that under automation, but you can also consider it its own thing as a performance testing. Why automation? More money. So more money is both for the company and for the people. When I was creating the slides, most likely in my mind, I'm thinking about the people, us, the automation engineers. You get paid more. Manual testers, automation engineers paid more because just more skills because of coding, right? So more money. But for the company, they save more money by automation. That's why every company wants to implement automation. Pretty much that has been the trend for a long time. Every company wants to implement automation. Not everything is automatable, but most things are automatable. And nowadays, even manual positions, if you've been in the job market, I'm sure you've noticed the job posting would be for manual position. They say, hey, we need a manual test engineer. Then in the requirements, they're like, oh, you got to have a little bit of automation skills. Like that's just everybody just wants that, and there's a reason they want you to. Even though you're manual testers, they want you to be able to communicate with the rest of the people. They want you to be a technical person, and they also want you to help maintain the automation, even though you're a manual person. So it's reliable and repeatable. The thing with automation is you write it once, the same thing, the same test will run over and over and over again. It takes time to write it, but once you write it and you write it properly, it doesn't change, right? It doesn't depend on your mood. Manual testers, a human testing it every day, depending on what kind of night you had last night, your mood is not going to be the same every day, right? Maybe you're not focused, maybe you're struggling with a terrible hangover, and you're missing all kinds of bugs. But with automation, you are going to code it once correctly, and the same thing will run over and over and over again. So it is reliable and it's repeatable. You can run it as many times as you want. That's one of the biggest benefits of automation, and it's fast to execute many tests. You'll see later on, it will take like 20 seconds to execute like 200 tests. No, 6 minutes to execute like 200 tests. At least the framework I have, which is single threaded. So we're going to look at actual examples, and we'll come back and continue to talk about the skill sets needed for automation. Okay. So the site we're going to test, for example, is let's say, well, you guys can access this site, and I created this for everybody. You can create this on your own, very easy. I have it on my YouTube channel, how to create this. I also have it in my, if you go to the blog post on my website, there's a full tutorial on how to build this. Very easy. It takes about, for me, I can create this maybe 20 minutes max because I've done it so many times. But the videos I created are 3 videos, 20 minutes each. So it would probably take you like a little bit over an hour the first time you do it. And it's quite straightforward. So I got another version of that site. I use this one for the bootcamp, because in the bootcamp I give people access to the backend, to the API. So they create their own, but as well they also have access to the backend, because it's a small group. Even if they break stuff, we can just fix it. With this one, I use it in the self-paced courses, which is a lot of students. I cannot provide a backend access, because if I give backend access, somebody can just wipe it out or delete everything, and then it would affect other people. It would take time for me to rebuild it. But the bootcamp is just much smaller group. I can do that, and I have tons of automation running. That's why there's so many products, because automation is always creating products. So let's do an example of an end-to-end test, an end-to-end e-commerce checkout test, right? If you work for an e-commerce site, or if you own an e-commerce site, one of the most important test cases is end-to-end checkout, right? You want to be, the whole point of your existence or your website's existence is to sell stuff. So you want to make sure people can check out, people can actually go end-to-end and check out or purchase whatever they want. So manually, if you were to test this, maybe you will have a product, specific product you want. You can probably just search for it. Let's say, let me search for hoodie. I don't know if I spelled it correctly. Then you're going to come in, you're going to click on add to cart. Let's say this is a simple product. This is like a variable product. You're going to go add to cart. You're going to go to the cart, right? You make sure you got the item is in the cart. So when you're manually doing it, you actually can check a lot of things within seconds, because your eyes can scan things super fast. You're not going to remember exactly what it's supposed to look like. Like you're not going to know if this image size is supposed to be like this. You're not going to know if the name should be above the price, or if this text should be below that. You're not going to know that. With repetition, maybe you remember exactly what it looks like, but at least if something is off, you would know right away, right? But if you're looking for a specific test case, if the test case is saying that, hey, the first line should be the name of the product, the second line should be the price. If that is a specific test case, of course, you're going to notice it right away. So real quick, you check everything out. Then there is $45 in the cart. Now, since this is the demo site, we can't process real credit cards. So in a real world, in a company, when you're doing checkout, there will be like a special credit card you can use, like a dummy credit card, but you still go through the checkout and you put in the credit card, the expiration date, and everything. That is a credit card number that credit card providers like Visa and MasterCard, they'll actually provide that to you. You use that. So for my site, what I do instead of that as a trick is I'll use a coupon. So I'll make the card free so we don't have to put in credit card information. So we're going to go to a cart, we're going to put in SSQA 100 and apply. That should turn this into a free, it's basically 100% off coupon that I created, SSQA 100 if you want to try it. Then now the cart is $0. I'm going to do proceed to checkout. Then I'm going to put in an email. I'm going to put in a shipping address, billing address, and then I'm going to click on place order. Right now it's going to be an error because there's required fields, right? I'm not going to do that to save time. So as you can see, that is a test case, a manual test case. Basically, I would call it checkout as a guest user. I did not create an account. I'm a guest user. I come in and I search for a product. I add the item into the cart. I go step by step. Click on next, fill in the form. Click on next, fill in the form. Once I click on submit, then the order confirmation page will show up. And I'll make sure, hey, I got an order ID. I got a thank you message, whatever it's supposed to do, right? So assume I did that for now. So that is an example of a test case. Now, a test case when I execute it manually. Now, what does that look like in automation? So the automation I do, so I'm going to open VS Code. I'm just going to show this example. This is Python code. So my most of my experience, almost all of my experience has been in Python. So in all my training, all my bootcamp, and the self-paced, as of now, it's all Python based. So in automation, we're going to talk about tools in the next slides. You would use one programming language and most likely one tool. Then the programming languages that are popular are Java, Python, and JavaScript. Those are really, really popular in the industry. Java and Python are very popular. I would say Java might be slightly more companies might use Java for automation, slightly more, but the learning curve though, Python is way easier than Java. So it doesn't make sense to start. My opinion, and a lot of people agree, it doesn't make sense for beginners to start with Java. Why would you start with Java to gain a slight advantage in terms of the job market, but a huge disadvantage in terms of the difficulty to learn? So definitely start with Python, much easier to learn. And nowadays, you want to get into AI and stuff, and most of these AI things are with Python. So there's like multiple advantages by starting with Python. So I'm glad I'm a Python guy because Python is just blowing up. I just got lucky. That's what I've done. I've done Java and stuff, but my company's automation has been in Python. So I've been focused in Python, and I do love it. So even my personal project, everything I do it in Python. So the way Python works, those of you who have never seen code before, it's basically a file that has .py, that is a Python file, and inside of that file, there are basically instructions. That's what code is. Code is a file with a bunch of instructions what to do. It's telling the program or the computer what to do, line by line by line by line. So when you learn in Python, that's what you learn. That's how you're learning, like, how do I instruct it? If I want to create a file, how do I tell it to create a file? If I want to read some information, how do I tell it to read information? How do I make decisions, logic, if, else? How do I repeat things over and over and again? For loop, while loop. Those are the things you learn. You learn how to write instructions in a file. That's really what a programming is. And Python is considered to be one of the easiest to learn because it uses a, like plain English type of writing. It's not very strict. It's like Java is called statically typed language. Python is dynamically typed language, so it's very flexible, makes it easy for you. So what happens is you create a file, you put a bunch of instructions in there. That by itself can be a program, right? You learn something, you implement it. That by itself can be a program, but typically it will grow. When you have an application or a program that has a lot of functionalities, you don't put everything into one file just to stay organized. You could, technically you could. There's nothing that prevents you from doing that, but it will be a nightmare to maintain. That's just not something you would do. What you would do is you create multiple files and you put code in each of those files, different things like specialized. This file is responsible for doing this type of things. This file is responsible for doing this type of things. So a bunch of files that do their own thing, then they work together though. One depends on another. So when we look at this one, this is a test file, specifically a test file. In this file, I have a bunch of tests. So if we look at this, This is basically a backend test, or we'll talk about front end and backend. I have a bunch of tests here, but then a lot of the logic, a lot of the code is coming from other Python files. If I was to go here, this is a different file, generic utilities.py. It's a whole different file. It has code that will generate, in this particular case, that will generate a random email and password. So I can use it for testing registration. When you want to test registration, you want an email and a password. There's a function that will generate that. So one file would import another file. So that's how programming works. That's what Python works. So when you're learning Python, those are the things you learn. Those are what are the instructions you write? If you want to do a specific thing, how do you format those instructions line by line, line by line? That's in any program. And then how do you organize it between different files and between different classes, right? Class, another way of organizing it. How do you organize it? How does it work together? The ecosystem, how do you execute it? How do you run it? Sometimes you can just come here and just hit the play button. When you have a little bit something more complicated, then you will do it in the terminal. So now this, what we see here is that. This is actually the framework. This is my bootcamp automation framework. There's about 200 tests, front end and back end. And this is basically a bunch of different Python files working together. Right? You build a framework. And now once you have a framework, when you want to add a new test, it makes it really easy to add more tests because a lot of the functionalities are already done for you in the framework and you just add stuff to it. So when you get a job, that's most likely that's what's going to happen. As you get to a job as a beginner, as a junior level, they would already have a framework. So you go and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to run existing tests. You're going to execute existing tests. Then you're going to learn how the framework is set up, right? Company A, company B, they both might be using Python. They both might be using PyTest. PyTest is like the engine for the tests. But the way they implemented it is going to be different. They have their own framework. They have their own framework. So you're going to have the first thing you do is learn their framework. How is it structured? How do you make API calls? How do you connect to databases and things like that? Then you start to implement a new tests to it. Okay. So this is how it's structured, like a bunch of different folders, a bunch of different files. This is my design. When you go to a company, you might have a very similar design, you might have a very different design. At the end of the day, though, you're still going to have a Python file with a bunch of instructions in there. So the way I would design this is I have a folder called SSQA test, then I have a folder called tests, then I got a front end and back end. I go to front end, I go to end, and I open this guy. So this is the test end to end checkout as a guest user. So this would do everything we just did manually, right? This is code that says go to homepage, click the first add item to cart. So instead of searching for a product, it's just clicking the first product. Wait until the cart is updated. Make sure that click on the cart button. So basically we'll click. So we'll start from home. All right. Site is a little slow. You would click on add to cart. You would click on this to go to the cart. Then it's basically saying, making sure the cart is not empty. Then we're going to get a coupon code for a free code from a configuration because the coupon code can change. Then it's going to basically apply the coupon, click on proceed to checkout, input the billing information, input shipping information, and finally get verify the order page, the confirmation, the thank you page is loaded. And finally, it will actually it takes the order ID and it makes a call to the database. If we look at this is going to run SQL. SQL is the language we use to database. That's why this is an example of why, as testers, why do we need SQL? That's some question that comes up. Even as a manual testers, SQL is the database language. So you use it to read data and to write data to database. So this application, this website, you went to the front end and you place an order. When you place an order, that information is going to be saved into a database because the app is based on databases. So in addition to looking at the page saying, hey, yeah, I worked, the order is placed. In addition to that, you actually going to go to the database and you're going to read the database and make sure it is there. That is one additional step you do. So that's what the automation is doing, is actually using Python to connect to SQL database, whatever the database application is using, and read the information and make sure it's working, right? So that is basically the same test case we just did manually. Now we just automated it. So I'm going to execute this. So I have an ID, TCID33 or ecom FE19. Well, I can use any of those IDs. Then I'm going to come here, clear the screen. I'm going to say Python 3-m pytest. The folder is tests. And the ID is TCID33. As soon as I hit enter, It's just going to open the browser. It's going to start doing all those things. And I'm using the terminal. For most people, the terminal seems like it's rocket science or some hacky advanced stuff, but it's not. Please remember that. Like the terminal is so easy to learn because there is millions of commands. You can create commands for the terminal. It's just for you to tell the computer what to do. Just like we use a mouse and the keyboard to make it do things, we can actually just use a keyboard to make it do things. We're just telling it, hey, open this file, delete this file. Now, normally with the mouse, you right click, delete. But with this, you can literally tell it to delete it. You use a command to delete a file. You say remove rm and the file name. If you're actually on Windows, you do delete del and the file name. So it's just a way for you to tell the computer what to do. There are some commands you will memorize, but most commands you're going to be looking at. But with repetition, you're just going to know most of the basics one, just a simple navigation one. So please don't be scared of the terminal because a lot of people think, look at the terminal and they think it's advanced stuff. It really is not. I have I have a cheat sheet on that, and in my self-paced courses, I actually have one small course that just basic tutorial on how to do command line, and on my YouTube. Actually, I have a full series on my YouTube. I don't know how many videos it is. It's more than 10 videos, probably a couple of hours. That will just get you familiar with the terminal. So go to my YouTube channel later and just search for terminal. Maybe I'll pull it up later on. If you guys remind me, I'll pull it up so you can see so I can share the link. Okay, remind me at the end, somebody who's interested. So I'm going to hit enter. That's going to start to run this. It's basically going to open a Chrome browser. I don't know why this browser is open here. You gotta be kidding. This was just working. That is so funny. Let me see. Python. Uh-oh. Python dash V. Oh man, it's Python 3.11. I know why it is not working. I literally ran this earlier today. What happened? I'm on that's called at work we call this the demo gods. When you're trying to show something, I literally like you saw it, right? Like I don't know if I could scroll. That is so crazy. This is the earlier command. Okay. Oh, I did something here. All right. So it is running. I don't know what was wrong with my command. I'm sure that I was using the wrong Python. You see how quickly it did? You got to that part. It's having an issue here, so it's retrying. That's why it's taking a little bit slow time, or I have a sleep. It checked out and it finished. So I'm going to run it one more time. It took 18 seconds, and that was a kind of slow for one test. So I'm going to run it one more time, and it's going to do everything we just did. I went to cart, it applied the coupon, it filled in the information for the checkout, right? You can see the shipping address all filled out. The total is 0, and it was waiting for something I'll need to look at why it's taking time at this stage here. And it clicked, it got the order ID, it printed the order ID, even went to the database and get the information from the database. All right. So that is an example of a front-end test case end to end. Did I use Python too? I don't think. Yeah, I said Python, but it's not, and I don't think I used Python too. See how I say Python right here in dash V, it's still Python 3.11. But if I do Python 3 in dash V, it's still Python 3.11. Yeah, it is quite weird why I did that. I have a virtual environment activated, so quite weird what happened there, but I'm glad I was able to run it. Okay, now backend. Let's see how am I doing with time. Okay, good. I'm actually right on time. So backend API testing. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are API? I'm going to do a quick overview of APIs because for some people that is extremely basic. For some people, it's like, what is API? So API is a way for two applications to talk to each other. So I have a few examples here. This is like TikTok videos that I created. I have this images I created for my TikTok videos. If you guys don't follow me on TikTok, please do. I can use some followers on there. So an API is a way for two applications to talk to each other. Okay. The front end we saw right now. So for example, just going to the homepage, right? This doesn't work that way, but it could have worked that way. When you look at the homepage here, what this is doing is it actually made an API call to the server saying, hey, give me all the products, right? And the server returned a list of products in a specific format. Let me open Postman in a specific format, and then the front end just formatted it in HTML. What we see here is HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's a mix of those things. Whatever you see in the front end in a browser, the three technologies that are being used: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. HTML gives it the structure. CSS gives it the look and feel, colors, and things like that. And JavaScript makes it interactive, like clicking the button, things moving around without you having to do anything. I hover the mouse over it and it's changing. That can be CSS, but most of the time it's JavaScript. So there, the application here is running on my website, on my browser. It's a client side. So the browser is a client. There's a server somewhere. In this case, it's on the cloud, right? There's a server sitting there. So it's going to make a request, an API request, and the server will respond with the data it wants. And then this will format it in a way it wants to present it, and it will present it. So the images I have here is, for example, you want to build an e-commerce application like this from scratch, right? And you want to accept credit cards. You do not need to invent the technology, the code to process credit cards. You don't have to deal with the government. Whenever you deal with financial stuff, they got to deal with governments. You don't have to deal with money itself, right? What you're going to do is you're going to find people that already figured out how to do that. People that already figured out how to deal with the government, how to process credit cards, how to deal with money, and you're just going to use their APIs, right? So when a customer comes to your website, to your application, they put in the credit card, you're not going to figure out, is this a valid credit card? How do I take money from this guy? You don't have to do none of that. You're going to send an API call to the company. So PayPal is an example. PayPal and Stripe are really popular. So they have APIs. You talk to them, and you send the person's information, and PayPal knows how to take care of that, knows how to take that and do everything correctly and send you back saying, oh yeah, this is valid. I already took money, put it into your account. Then you can tell your customer, hey, good, your payment is good to go. Right? That's one example. Um, this is just another example, just two applications talking to each other. One application sends a request and a response. Another example would be like you want to build an app that uses maps, right? For example, let's Uber. Uber is a good example. Uber built an app that a map is a big part of their application, a huge part of their application, right? But their job is to create code and logic that will connect drivers and passengers. They're not in the business of mapping out the planet, right? That's not their business. Their business is like finding drivers and then customers, processing payment, and just giving rides. So what they do, they don't need to invent a map. They're going to find somebody that invented a map that has an API exposed, and they're going to pay them to use their API. So in Uber, this is an actual example. Uber uses Google Map. So Google is in a business of building maps. They're building, mapping out the world, right? A long time ago, they did that. So they invested all that money and built this map, and we use it all the time for free. And we think, man, why? How is this such amazing thing free? But for commercial use, it's not free, right? We use it for free, but Uber pays Google. So every time you make an API call, you send a request, you get a response, and you're going to send a request to Google Maps saying, "Hey, give me the map of Las Vegas," and it will send you back the data, and in your app, you'll display that data, and you pay for it. Every time you make a request, you pay for it. So that's what an API is, right? If you have an application, you have another application, and they talk to each other using API. If you build an application that has some special functionality, you invent something, right? And you can expose the API, and other people can call your API and they pay you to use your functionality. Right now, like OpenAI, the AI company, or DeepSeek, that's what they do. That's how they make their money. Right? Most of their money is made through the API. They have the AI, the engine, the smart thing sitting there, and whenever I want to create something that uses AI, I'm just going to talk to them using APIs. And every time I talk to them, I pay for it, right? There is a different ways to calculate how much to pay. So once you understand that what an API is, now when we're talking about API testing or backend testing, what we're doing is we're making sure that communication is happening correctly. When you send a request, did you get the right response, right? That is really the most important thing. You send a request, you get a response. So in the response is basically, let me see if I can actually demo a quick one. So Postman is a very popular tool. You can automate in Postman, but I use it for manual testing to just test APIs. So for example, I have this API get product, and it's using this URL. It's actually making an API call. If I hover over this variable, it's using a variable. It's calling to dev.bootcamp.store.spreadsheet.com, which is the site we're doing here, right? And I'm saying, give me information about this product ID that. So I'm going to make a request. I'm going to say send. So I made a request to the server that is at dev.bootcamp.store. That's the address. I could have used the IP address also. Now I got a response. So when I get a response, the first thing I look for is the status code. So every API, this is an HTTP call, right? There's different kinds of calls. HTTP is the most popular HTTP RESTful API. So I look at the status code, I look at the body, I look at the header. Those are key things you need to look for. Usually, especially the body. The body is the data. So I say, give me information about this product, and it gave me information about the product in this format. This is called a JSON format. It's a really popular format. The ID of the product is this, the name is that, this is that. It's key value pair. Now, my job, if I'm testing this API, if I'm trying to make sure this API actually works, this is what I'm going to do, right? I manually right now, I literally just tested it, right? That the API is working. I didn't get into the details, but I just tested the API is working. I got a 200 back, and then I'll check the data. I should already know what the product is. Is it a simple product? So I can say, hey, the API actually did say it's simple, did has a status, did had feature, right? That's what it is. So when you automate this, now I just did this in manual testing and manually, but in code, then again, you go to backend, let's say we go to products, and there's a bunch of files. Each file has multiple tests. Then you do the same thing. You write Python code that will make the API call, will get the response, and in your code, you're going to look through the response and be like, first, you're going to look at the status code. Hey, is it 200? Is it 201? Is it 400? Whatever you're expecting. Then you look at the actual data, and quickly, within like fraction of a second, you're going to go through each item, and you're going to make sure. So I'm going to run a test here. I'm just going to run a bunch of tests. Everything that is actually I'm doing customers. That's what I tested earlier. So when we look at this customers API, every test has a an ID or a mark called customer. So I'm going to say, hey, Python, PyTest, run all tests that has customers in them. I'm going to hit enter. And now it's running test. API testing is much faster because there's no browser to open. It's going to run so quick. So this is testing a bunch of things, making an API call, getting a response, and making sure the response is correct. It also does negative tests. It makes an API call with invalid data to make sure the API responds with the correct information. So for example, if I was trying to make an API call to a product that doesn't exist, I should get a 404, like a correct response. So I made an API calls to a product I know it doesn't exist. So I'm trying to test it. Hey, if I make an API call for something that doesn't exist, does it respond correctly or does it blow up? In this case, it's correct. We got a 404, that's good. And we actually have a message saying, hey, invalid ID, right? So that is part of the test. In the automation, there will be tests that do that. So in this case, it ran 10 tests and 17 seconds to run that test, okay? So that is basically a quick demo according to the time we have. Those are the demos. Now, to be able to do that, to write automation, what skills do you need? Let's see. I have to keep checking how I'm doing with time. I'm definitely doing fine. All right. So this is, I think most people will be interested in this section, right? I mean, if you've never really seen automation in action, that was a really quick one. I do have a free webinar, actually a record, a pre-record, not live like this. Pre-recorded one. Just go to supersquare.com. Right on the first page, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a free course. So for software testing fundamentals, which is for like manual testing, just getting warmed up to testing. But it is a lot of valuable stuff, especially SQL and API. There's like 10 hours worth of stuff there. And there is a pre-recorded automation demo, basically what I showed you right now, but a little bit more expanded. It's like 1 hour. So make sure you check that out. We can talk about it later again. Remind me. Using Swagger and Postman for API testing. Awesome. Can Selenium handle this? No. So Selenium is for front end, right? Selenium is specifically for a browser. That's the whole point. Selenium opens a browser and it does things on the browser like a human would do. What you're doing testing API, Swagger and Postman is testing APIs that request response. Two different things, front-end testing and back-end testing. So Selenium is specifically for back-end. Oh, Swagger is for browser? Okay, it must be something that I do not know. So if Swagger is for browser, then are you sure? I thought Swagger is basically you open the tool in a browser. You open the tool in the browser, but it is for API testing. I don't know if it goes and clicks on buttons and things like that. I'm not sure. Well, I'd love to talk about it later on. I want to see what your experience is like. If you have time to stick around, we can talk about it. CC. All right, so the skill sets, right? When you want to become an automation engineer, at a glance, these are just few of the things. That doesn't mean you need to learn everything, but this is just few of the things. So I like to put slides like this in a lot of my presentations because it serves two purposes, in my opinion, right? One is it's exciting. The fact that you're going to, by being an automation engineer, you're going to know all this stuff, right? Sure, it can be intimidating. You'd be like, oh my God, I got to know all this. But like, I don't know, somebody like me, I'd be excited. I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. Yeah, of course it's going to be challenging. Of course, it's too much things to learn, but I'm going to know all this. It's going to be pretty cool. I know all this, right? Whatever I have here right now, this is just it's not even everything. So the most important one, Python, we'll talk about it. This is like Linux environments. I'm not good at Linux environments, but I can get around. AWS, the cloud. Now the cloud is nobody can say like I know AWS unless you're like a cloud engineer. It's too big, right? AWS is just the Amazon Web Service. It's just a service, but inside of AWS, there is tons of tools and there's new ones coming up all the time. You can't know all of them. I know a handful of them that I actually used. Then this is like an icon for terminal. This is SQL. This is Selenium. PyCharm. This is just an IDE. GitLab CI. Jenkins. Get those two are competition. If we have time, I do actually prepare Jenkins examples. I want to show you. I want to show you CI/CD and Docker. So when you learn automation, you're going to learn a lot of those things. Types of automation, web application, mobile application, backend testing, and performance testing. So you can divide it in four. A lot of people could put all of those into different groups, but this is how I group it. Backend testing, some people might put database testing by itself, but I think database testing is part of backend testing. So the examples I just showed you right now are web tests and backend tests. Those are the two types of examples I just showed you, right? Selenium for web application test and the API testing is for backend. When we say backend testing, it doesn't necessarily have to be APIs. It all depends how the backend of the application works. The backend of the application could be serverless in AWS, right? Using AWS Lambda and Batch and things like that. So you would test that. So there's no APIs, but the backend is using some technology, so you would test that. That is backend testing. But in general, most of the time, applications do use APIs in the backend. So I tend to focus on API testing for that reason. Okay, so must-have skills. When you become an automation engineer, must-have skills are a programming language, a testing tool, and SQL, right? So for programming language, like I mentioned earlier, you have a choice of Python, Java, JavaScript, right? And I absolutely recommend Python for the same reason I explained earlier. It's much easier to learn compared to Java. The only time I would recommend, hey, learn Java is if you already have some opportunity lined up, right? If you have a friend that says, hey, if you learn Java automation, right? If you learn automation using Java, I got you a job. Of course, you're going to learn Java. If you work for a company right now, you're manual tester or you're doing something completely different. You're in finance, you're in legal, you have nothing to do with the engineering team, but you do want to get into engineering. So your company uses Java for their testing, right? You're going to learn Java. You should, because you already have a much better opportunity within the company to get a job. You better start making friends, that's for sure, right? Start hanging out with the engineers and stuff. But by learning automation now, you already know your first Java application is going to be within your own company because you have a really good chance. In that case, yes, learn Java. If you already work in a company that uses Java, of course, learn Java. But if you are just starting from scratch, you're going to learn something and you're going to go look for a job. My personal advice is use Python. Of course, go to talk to ChatGPT, talk to friends, and see if people agree with that. So once you got the programming language, once you choose a programming language, the next tool is Selenium, Appium, or Playwright. Again, so Selenium and Appium, Selenium and Playwright are like a competition. Playwright is newer, supposedly it's more powerful. My experience as of now is limited with Playwright. Selenium is what I've been doing not all my life, but all my career. So you want to pick up Selenium to start with. It's still the big player in the field. Still really popular. It's been around. Um it's very mature. Okay. Then you need to work with databases, SQL. Thankfully, SQL is quite easy. SQL can be as simple as just one line to as complicated as like 10 pages. I mean, it can be really, really complicated. But as testers, you just need to know the basics. Even as manual testers, you need to know SQL. Like I said earlier, you do something, then you got to go check in the database. So fairly easy. All of those things I have courses for. Um, So must-have skills. So those are like must-have skills and more must-have skills. Git, SSH, Postman, right? Those are like I was thinking about it earlier when I was reviewing the slides. They don't deserve a lot of time here. It's just it's given. It's like saying if I say, "Oh, you got to know if you want to be automation engineer, you want to know how to use Git." It's like saying, "Hey, if you want to be a chef, you got to know how to use a knife." I'm like, "Duh," right? Like you can't cook something without using. I mean, I guess you could, but you need a knife, right? It is a tool as a chef or even as anybody cooking at home. You're gonna have to learn how to cook. What ingredients go with what kind of flavors match with what kind. Those that's science. You have to learn all that. And somebody's not going to be like, oh, you got to learn how to use a knife. No, it's a given. Like obviously you got to use a knife to be able to cook. So Git is kind of like that. SSH is kind of like that. You just got to know. But thankfully they're very small topics. You're going to invest a day or two on that in your journey. Then nice to have skills that would make you to the next level, right? That's going to differentiate you with most of automation engineers is CI/CD tools like Jenkins and GitLab and GitHub, and CI Circle CI. I've never used Circle CI, but Jenkins, GitLab, GitHub Actions, especially the first two, I have a lot of experience. So you want to know that because the point is you're going to be in a company, you're going to be a software engineer in test. You want to know how everything works, right? CI/CD is part of it. CI/CD is the process of somebody creating the code and then that code gets deployed to servers. I'm going to talk about it according to my schedule. I forgot to add it in my list, but I prepared examples though. So we're going to look at it. I'm doing good with time, so we will look at that. CI/CD. Then cloud services like AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. One of those. You don't have to know everything, right? If you're on the East Coast, and there's a lot of government around you, right? You probably want to do Amazon, Microsoft Azure because the government just loves Microsoft. So it's a cloud. So those are cloud providers. AWS is Amazon's cloud. Google Cloud Compute, GCP is Google's cloud, and Microsoft Azure is Microsoft cloud. IBM have their own cloud. AWS by far is most popular in the private sector, and Microsoft Azure is most popular in the government sector. So if you're like in the DMV area, mostly in the East Coast, a lot of jobs will ask for Azure. So it's going to make you more competitive, right? It's not an automation skill. It's not a QA automation skill. Knowing how to use the cloud is not specifically to QA automation, but again, a QA automation, you are an engineer and you want to be able to contribute more to the team. So the more technologies you know, the better. And in my opinion and in my experience, I feel like those CI/CD tools in cloud, some of the cloud is good. Another thing is with the cloud, if you actually end up liking it, it's an awesome career. It's a great career. You get paid like 250K with a little bit of experience, not even a lot of experience, and there is demand for it. At least AWS. I've used AWS, and people around me are into AWS, so I can speak for AWS. And I personally know a person getting 250 as a cloud engineer, which is pretty good. All right. Other nice to have skills is Vim, is like being able to edit files in the command line, frameworks, other frameworks. So like the framework the demo, the example I showed you right now is the one I use in Python in my bootcamp. It is a PyTest framework. It's Python. The language is Python. The framework is PyTest, and we build a wrapper around it. I do the same thing. I use PyTest in my self-paced video courses as well. Then there's other frameworks that are popular. There's robot framework, pretty popular. BDD is pretty popular. Within BDD, there is a few flavors of it. So you want to pick up different frameworks. If on your portfolio, on your resume, the more frameworks you have, the more chances for jobs, right? Every company is going to use it's one of those popular frameworks. So, and once you learn one of them, it's easy to add more. If you know how to use Browser Stack, it's pretty awesome. Browser Stack is like a third-party service where you run your automation. Right now, when we run our automation, the front-end test, we specifically run it on Chrome. I actually had it set up to run on Chrome. But when you test something, you do want to test it in different browsers. You want to test it on Chrome, on Firefox, on Safari, on Edge. On four of those, right? Sometimes Internet Explorer, even though that's dying. So, it's a headache to maintain all that. So Browser Stack, it's a company that basically bought a bunch of computers and mobile devices and all kinds of stuff. So when you want to run your test in a specific device, in a specific version of the device and a specific version of the browser, you can use their service. You can basically use the APIs pretty much. You use a remote web driver, And if let's say I want to make sure my website works on an iPhone 10 running on Safari version 12, what I have to do is specify those things in the habit, and you pay them for it. So if you have browser stack on your resume, it's a really good plus. Then Jira is a very popular project management tool. It's free for individuals, so you can just get it and manage your day to day with that if you want to get familiar with it, so you can put it on your resume. Um, yeah, so those are nice to have skills that I recommend. So game plan on how to learn. Again, it kind of goes the same step that I just mentioned before. Step one is you want to learn a language. You want to pick up a programming language. I recommend Python, like I mentioned. Um, then step two is a Selenium WebDriver. Right? Selenium has three components. WebDriver is the main one. So once you pick up the language, you pick up the tool. I recommend Selenium. Uh, so Selenium is just a library. It depends on what language you use, right? And once you learn Selenium with Python, later on when you want to do Selenium with Java, it's an easier transition. You just have to learn Java. You don't have to relearn Selenium. Selenium is more like an idea than anything else. So the language is what's going to be challenging. Even in my bootcamp, I tell everybody, whoever talks to me, like set up Zoom meetings before the bootcamp, preparing for it, I tell them start with Python. Just start learning Python because learning the programming language is the most challenging part. That's what's going to take time. So learn that before even the bootcamp starts, and in the first, we're going to spend the first few weeks of the bootcamp doing that, learning Python. That if you start ahead, now it gives you opportunity to practice more. So it just makes your life a little bit easier. Well, a lot easier actually. So the programming language, step one, the first thing. Even if you undecided, what here for those people here, the advice I'm going to give you, even if you're not decided to pursue QA automation or not. I'm sure you guys are thinking if you're like researching careers in tech, there's a different options. Just do Python regardless, right? It doesn't matter if you're going to go to a database. It doesn't matter if you're going to do cybersecurity. It doesn't matter if you're going to go to data analytics, right? That is database. Full stack engineering. Whatever you're going to do, Python will show up. I promise you, Python will show up. It is going to be used one way or another in any kind of tech field you are. In tech support, Python will show up time to time. You have nothing to lose by learning Python. So even during your research phase, still pick up Python. Just start learning Python, okay? And you'll love it. It's actually, I mean, I love it. But okay, so Python, Selenium. Then step three will be a framework. You got to pick up a framework, something like PyTest or Robot Framework. I choose PyTest for my education because PyTest is pure Python and it will force you to write more Python code, where Robot Framework is kind of obfuscate. Is that the right way? Confiscate, obfuscate. Like kind of hides a lot of the Python. You can write a lot of tests without writing Python if you want, especially front end. Back end, not so much. Front end, you could write a lot of tests because Selenium library for robot is so awesome. You could write a lot of tests without actually writing pure Python. So for learners, I do recommend PyTest, and that's why I use PyTest in my training because you write Python. It gives you a lot more exposure. So pick a framework and learn it. PyTest or Robot are my favorite to choose from. Then step four is basically practice more, right? Just practice. Like so, the way you're learning those things is by doing tutorials. You can even do YouTube. Obviously, YouTube is not the best because a lot of distractions, right? One minute you're watching a Python video, the next minute YouTube is going to be like, "Hey, look at somebody dancing," and you're going to watch that. It's totally distraction, but it's free. There is great content, so you can definitely do it. So it is all tutorials. You're going to watch tutorial on Python. You're going to watch tutorial on Selenium. Hopefully, the tutorials you're watching actually have hands-on examples. That's really, really extremely important. So that's what I actually love my courses. I think I did a great job because it's very much hands-on practice on there. Then even when you're doing frameworks, there are going to be. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to do framework without actually like there's no theory. It's actually you have to do it. But then it's going to be like small examples here and there, small mini projects, but then you need real experience. You need to practice. This whole thing, the way you think of it is think of it like a sport, like you're learning how to play basketball. You can watch basketball, you can watch LeBron James play all day, every day. You can watch it, sit there and watch his entire 20-year season, right? You're not going to play like him. You're not even close, right? But then if you go on the court every day, as much as you watch, you go in the court and you shoot the basketball, you actually practice, well, probably not like you're not going to play like LeBron James, but you are going to be good. For sure, you're going to be good, right? So coding is just like that. You can watch tutorials all day, every day. It's not going to make no difference if you're not doing it. So you got to practice. So step four is practice. And what I recommend is you build an e-commerce site like the one I did. Just follow my instructions and or have the whole thing on YouTube. And then practice, just practice, practice, and practice some more. That's really what I recommend. If you don't want an e-commerce site, just talk to ChatGPT. What kind of site can I build? Don't try to build the site from scratch by writing the code. Use something like WordPress, like I did, because everything is there. You just gotta configure it. All right. So putting it all together and practicing, write tests and automate them for an e-commerce site. I like the idea of e-commerce because when you work, when you go get a job, most likely most companies are e-commerce, right? They sell something. They're not necessarily selling products like Amazon, but they have something to sell. There is some kind of checkout flow. There is some kind of credit card and stuff. So I think e-commerce gives you a little bit of a wider experience. Pick a framework, automate front-end tests, and automate back-end tests. Step five, now we're getting to those nice to have tools. Learn a CI/CD tool. Uh, I recommend Jenkins. Still, Jenkins is old school, but still really popular. So you can go to Jenkins or you can go to GitLab CI or GitHub Actions. At that time, by that time, you already practiced automation. You already know Python, so you kind of know how to do research. So you don't need my advice at that point. At that point, you already know what to do. You need to do market research, right? You're going to go to ChatGPT. You're going to ask it, hey, I just finished learning this and this and that. I want to go to the next step and I want to learn CI/CD for the next step. So which CI/CD tool should I learn and why? Of course, don't you have to ask it why, and do the maybe even use the deep research feature. So we'll actually do a deeper research and tell you like, oh yeah, most of the companies in the world are still using Jenkins, or a lot of companies are migrating to modern CI/CD like GitLab CI or GitHub Actions. So you make a decision then. Okay, I really don't have a problem with either learning any of those. Step six is, well, start learning the cloud. That would really make a difference. Just basic ones. You can get a free server ECS, not ECS, EC2. I'm surprised I didn't write it here, but you can like rent a server and things like that. Again, this is another research you got to do. And then pick up a framework after that. Once you do one or two, three different AWS, parts. Again, if you're in the East Coast, Azure, you can do that and learn a second framework and learn. Then after that, either you can go to mobile testing. APM is for mobile, like applications that are running on the phone, or you can go into Playwright. So at that time, you make those decisions. You don't have to make this decision. You just got to focus on step one, two, three, and four right now. Okay. That is my most important thing. So before I even get to the AI part, let me just show you CI/CD because I kept talking about CI/CD. What is CI/CD? CI/CD is basically you write code, and that code needs to go to the server for the public to be accessible. So here I have a to-do app. Okay, so this to-do app is it's just a simple Python application, right? There's you can add a task. I think add a task, and there's one task that's added. You can go to home. So it's a to-do app, and there's different versions. So every time when we work for a company, that app has different environments. If you guys are new, there's a production environment that we access. For example, Facebook.com, that is Facebook's production environment. It's a prod or production. That's what the public access. But internally, they have different versions of Facebook. They have dev.facebook. They have, I don't know what the name is, but most likely, right? Dev.facebook, staging.facebook, test.facebook, right? That is a version of the website that only internally can be accessed. It cannot be accessed from the public. So when they write a brand new code, they're going to take that code and put it into dev.facebook.com so the testers and the engineers can access it and test it. Then they take that exact code and put it in test, which is a better stable environment. Now you run automation, you run tests, you do a bunch of validation. Then you can put it into facebook.com, which is a production. It might be multiple different stages, but the idea is there is a stage where you're going to run your test before it goes to the production, it goes public. So that process of taking the code from basically from the developer writes a code, makes a change, and then that code goes through a bunch of processes and makes it to the production. That is called CI/CD. Well, that's called deployment. You're deploying the code, the process of deployment. So CI/CD is continuous delivery, continuous integration. What happens is the difference is as soon as the developer commits a code, all of that happens automatically. The code just makes it all the way to production, just automatically. Before CI/CD, a person would have to go and trigger something, run a test manually, click a button, things like that. Now, if it's a true CI/CD, it will just go. So you would have a tool like this. So this is Jenkins. This is a different view of Jenkins. So this is Jenkins. This is a Jenkins that I use in the bootcamp. Jenkins is also free, but you have to install it yourself. Like GitHub Actions, you can just go to GitHub. GitLab, you can just go to GitLab. You don't have to install it. It's still free, but you have to go to Jenkins. You have to host it yourself. The application is free, but you have to host it. So it looks like this. There's a bunch of jobs. Each one of those things are jobs. They do a specific thing. So then we have a pipeline. This is a deployment pipeline. For the to-do app, this is a deployment pipeline. So what happens is you have different job. Every job is doing a specific thing. So the polling job is checking GitHub for the code. So the code has to live somewhere, some Git. It could be GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, anywhere. It has to be in some Git repository. So the code lives in a Git. So this job is checking every X minutes. Right now it's checking every 5 minutes. I'm going to change it to check every minute. So this job is saying, hey, I'm going to see if there is a new code that is being checked in by developer. Oh, Jenkins is super slow right now. There goes the demo god. So I'm going to do configure. All right, because I was preparing this morning, everything looked good. So this is the repository. Where is the repository? This is the repository. It's a GitHub repository. It is a private, so I need credentials. And then the branch name is a main branch. If you don't know Git, don't worry about that, but it's just the version of the code. The branch is like a version of the code. And it's checking every 5 minutes. I'm going to say check every minute. So every minute is going to see, hey, is there code? Is there a new code? Is there a new code? Is there a new code? As soon as there is a new code, it's going to say, oh, I saw a new code. Let's deploy it to dev environment. Then it's going to trigger this job. Then this job is going to run. And what this job does, what's configured to do is take the new code and deploy it into the dev version, to the dev site. And then once this finishes, it's going to trigger these other jobs that's going to run automation on the dev side. So now that code is on this dev version, it needs to be tested. So it's going to test it on this site, on this URL. It's going our automation, the automation test we wrote is going to go to this dev site and make sure everything works. If it's successful, then this job is going to trigger this next job, which is supposed to deploy it to the test environment. Then we go here. This is a different URL test environment. I guess the code was never deployed here. We're going to check that, why that is. Let me see. This guy, maybe because it's not chained correctly. This is supposed to deploy this. This is supposed to deploy that. We can fix that real quick. So we can say, let's see, this guy. Oh, it does run regression. Then regression runs deploy. Oh, I don't know why that didn't work. We'll try it out. So then that basically keeps going like that. It will deploy to the test environment. Then once it deploys to test environment, this job will trigger this. It's going to run regression. Then after regression passed, it's going to deploy it to staging. After deploying to staging, it's going to deploy it to prod. So we have a staging environment. This is a staging to-do.staging.supersqa.com. Then we have to-do.supersqa.com, which is a production version of it, right? I just created a subdomain. And normally, a true CI/CD, all of this would happen. But in my experience though, production, we usually have a person click that button, right? All of this would happen automatically up to staging. But for production, so I guess we're not a true CI/CD. Prod is where it goes to the public. That's the thing, right? So we want to know when things go to prod. So we want a QA person to come, or maybe even a developer to come and please press the button to go to production. So our job as testers, we need to understand CI/CD because our tests are very critical part of this. You don't have CI/CD without tests. If you don't have automation, you're not going to release a brand new code into production to the public without testing it. So our tests are here. So all the smoke test is ours, regression is ours. Those are the same exact tests, but running in different environments. So our tests have to be very reliable, right? They have to run and pass all the time if there is no bug. A lot of times, what happens with tests is there is false positives. Yeah, false positives, right? There's nothing wrong with the application itself, but the test is reporting it as failure because the test is not written correctly. It's just it sucks because especially front end tests, and it's kind of job security because we have to constantly maintain it. But if you write the code correctly first place, if you design the test properly, it should be stable. That's the whole point. Your whole goal is to create stable tests that doesn't flake. It's not flaky. It doesn't fail randomly. So because of that, we need to understand how CI/CD pipelines work because we are a critical part of it. As you can see, it's a very important part in that whole thing. If our tests are not performing, there is no CI/CD. Okay, so that's I want to show you that. I do want to make a change real quick. So if I was to look at the app locally, the same application I'm running it locally. So right now the color is like this. So let me change it. I can change the color. Let me look at where is the app to do app Flask. Oh, I have two of them. Unfortunate. Okay, no, that's not the one. Good. Okay, so I'm going to change. Let's say I'll change this into like yellowish, right? Let's say I'll change this into yellow. Now, if I go to the page locally to my local site, refresh yellow, right? I just changed it. If I go to the remote, it's the same thing. It didn't change, but this is localhost 127.0.0.1. Now I'm going to make a git commit. So I'm going to say git status. That's changed. Git commit dash aim. Change to yellow. Git branch. I want that branch. Git push origin. So all this is just git commands. You gotta be kidding. Failed to push some refs to why? Git pull. And that is so crazy, though. So crazy. Because I just did this before. All right, so that that sucks. Oh, I can just do git checkout main. I'm just gonna make the same change on main branch. So main is gonna have a different color. Now I'm gonna change it to something else. Let's go to pink. Okay. Now I'm on main. Git branch, main branch, git status. Okay, git commit dash aim. I'm just gonna say changed color to pink. Git push origin. Normally you don't do this to main branch. Oh, something terrible is happening. Okay, never mind. Oh well, I could change it here, right? So yeah, I don't want to spend time on this. But if I was to make a change to the application, where is a git in GitHub? This is another view of the CI/CD actually. This is just a more modern view. See how I told you about this is the jobs? This job runs and this job runs and this job runs. This is Jenkins old school view. There's a more modern view, same thing, but this is a different pipeline. It's the same idea. So there it will start and there is a job that does something, then there are two jobs that will run in parallel at the same time to save time. Unit tests are written by developers, not QA. Then there is integration tests, again, written by developers. Then you deploy it to a QA environment. Then this is our test, QA stuff, regression, smoke, UAT, user acceptance. So you're going to run the automation in parallel at the same time. You're going to run it in Chrome, Chrome on Mac, Chrome on Windows, on Firefox on Mac, Firefox on Windows 10, Firefox on Windows 11, and on Safari, right? The same exact test is running on different browsers at exact same time. If everything passes, you'll deploy it to production. If one of them fail, you don't. It will just end, right? You can see how it skipped production. And I like the way they have the visual here. So this is something you will see. And if you go to GitHub, it looks kind of like this. If you go to GitLab, it looks kind of like that. I have a screenshot. This is the repository. I'm using this for my portfolio. Plus, this is what we built in the bootcamp. So I recently just refreshed it for my portfolio. So I have like CI/CD. So this is a GitLab CI/CD. The same concept. You have a job that does something like a health check, make sure the application is up. Then you have runs that runs tests. I don't know if you can see it. It's pretty small. Basically, you have backend regression, backend smoke, front end on Chrome, front end in Firefox, a bunch of tests running. This is one stage. That means they all run at the same time. It's not like you wait for one job to finish until you start the next job. Then once all the jobs are finished, you got a report generation where it would compile all the report from all the jobs, and it will update some dashboard that I built. And also, so there is a dashboard, automation dashboard as per SQL.com. There is this dashboard that basically takes all the test results and display the test results, the historical test results. So I built that with Python also. And so that's what this pipeline does. Where did it go? That's what this pipeline does. You run the automation, and after you finish the automation, you're going to send reports somewhere. So the company might have something set up. If not, this will be a really good way for you to impress your new boss. You build something for them. If you have to go to Jenkins to look at your test results, if you have to go to the CI/CD tool to look at the test results, then you build a dashboard. You use AI to build it, and you will impress a lot of people. So this is Jenkins, what I just showed you, and this is pretty much GitHub Actions. It looks just like GitLab, but it is within GitHub itself, right? Not GitLab. If you don't know GitLab, those are just companies. They're different companies. They're brands. GitHub is a brand. GitLab is a brand. Git is a technology. So GitLab uses Git. GitHub uses Git. Git itself is a technology, but there's companies that use Git and they basically make money, tons of money. So, anyways, yeah, this is just the repository, the automation repository, and I really put a lot of time in the README because I want to use it as portfolio. So now AI in testing. Now it's fairly new, right? So people are still trying to figure it out. I myself are doing research in figuring it out. Like how do we use AI in testing? How does it impact us? So here are a few use cases for AI in testing, right? AI gave me this. I went to ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, give me a a use case for AI and automation, and it listed out a bunch of things, and I picked those. So test case generation, that is the most obvious one, right? That is something you can do today, literally today. You can go pull up ChatGPT, pick anything up. You can pick up a water bottle, and you can go to ChatGPT and give me test cases for a water bottle. But again, an e-commerce website, but you can't say website. You can say like a specific, like a product page, a login page, a registration page. You can say, give me test cases. You can even upload a screenshot and say, give me test cases for a screenshot and organize it this way, that way. So that is the most obvious use case for AI. And generating test cases is the most annoying, boring job in testing. When you're a software tester, you know this. You don't because you have to write it down. You have thinking about it is actually fun because you're trying to be creative, coming up with like, how do I test this? That is enjoyable. But actually documenting it, that this is the steps. You have to do this first, go this, do this, click that, click this. That is a test case, and you document it, and it's not fun. And you can miss things. Well, it's not fun for me. Obviously, it's a personal thing. Somebody might find it fun. But with AI, you can create a lot of test cases really quickly. I'm actually building a tool. You can just describe it, and you will use an API to OpenAI's API to generate it. Like if you follow me on YouTube, I'm going to start creating updates on this QA AI tool that I'm building. It's going to be awesome. So test case generation, visual testing. So I'm going to give you a poll real quick. So visual testing, right? And I want to make a point. I want to make a point about AI. So that's why, bear with me. So visual testing, we use AI for visual testing, for flaky test detection, for root cause analysis, which is pretty awesome, for test prioritization, for API semantic testing. I actually didn't know what that meant, to be honest. Self-healing tests, explanatory testing assistance, exploratory testing assistance. This is where you don't really write test cases, you just go and just explore the application. bug triage automation, sentiment analysis on user feedback, risk-based testing prediction, right? Those are really, really fancy and awesome use cases for using AI in testing. Now, I'm going to pull up a quick poll. I've only done it once before, so let me see if I can figure it out. Polls, okay, polls, quizzes. Did you understand? Okay, so answer this poll for me, and I'll share a screenshot what people say. Hopefully, you guys get a poll. Did you get a poll on your screens? Just quickly, let's spend 1 minute on this. So basically saying, I just mentioned all the use cases, right? Visual testing, flaky test detection, root cause analysis, blah blah. Did you understand what all those meant? That's really the point I'm getting. Okay? Did a lot of this make sense? Okay. Oh wow, there must be the results are let's see, I don't want to some okay. Let's see how many responses. About half the people responded. Oh, but it is pretty surprising. The result I'm getting is quite surprising. So what I'm going to do is, oh, what is the poll? I was thinking I can take a screenshot of the poll. For the poll just disappeared. It's funny. Oh, there you go. So I'm going to take a screenshot. People are still answering. There's only 24 people, guys. That's just half. Can I get a little more participation, please? But okay, that's good enough. We don't need. I just want to make a quick point. No, nothing major. So this is the result. I understood what they meant, 24%. I understood some of it, 52%, half the people. I would imagine most of those people are in testing, right? They've been around. They're not people that are just exploring the career. I have no idea what this meant, 24%. I would imagine a lot of that is people that are fairly new to the field. Now let's look at another table, AI use cases in general, right? Writing emails, writing resumes, summarizing text, writing code, creating social media posts, writing emails, generating images, creating videos, voice, translation, chatbots, right? That's a different set of use cases that's not related to QA and testing. Now, let's see. This is another poll. Just quickly, 30 seconds, guys. Respond to this poll. This is for this one. Fate said, understand only test case generation, right? Yeah, because that sounds like it's common sense. And even if you're not in QA, even based on what I said about what a test case is, that would make sense. I'd expect this one is in general. This is test cases in general. There's 15 response so far, so a little bit more. And it's clear when we get general test cases. So I'm going to just take a quick screenshot of this. I think that's probably good enough. All right. So as you can see, with 62% say, yeah, I understood what they meant, right? Why is that? Why do people understood the use case? They're both talking about AI. People understood it. A majority of people understood exactly what those meant, but majority did not understood what those meant. It's because AI is all about domain knowledge. Okay. What I want to say is people say, AI could replace us. You don't need QA if there's AI. You don't need engineers if there's AI. No, AI by itself doesn't do anything. AI is a tool. AI is a tool that would basically supercharge stuff that we already know. So you need to have domain knowledge. You need to know what QA is. You need to know what testing is so you can apply AI and use it in testing. Okay. So that's really the point. It annoys me. And everybody that says those things, by the way, is not in QA, is not a programmer. A programmer is not going to say AI is going to just completely wipe out programmers. People that say like a lot of the thing I see these days is basically use build application, even though you have no background at all, use the application using tools like Cursor and what is the other one? There's a bunch of them that you just tell it what to do and it builds the whole application. Yes, they work, but you have to intervene so much. You got to know the basics. So I highly encourage everybody learning the basics, and then of course then go on all in with AI and building stuff. You guys should not be thinking about jobs only these days. These days, you have to be thinking about like building apps and selling them, making money by building stuff, by being consultant and things like that. Um, I want to talk about that more later on. It's just my opinion, but you really like it's not like the old days where you just the only choice you have to do is to go work for somebody. Man, it's so not anymore. So let's talk about these use cases a little bit more. So test case generation, I talked about it in a little bit, right? I explained it. It's just basically creating test cases. In fact, I'm building that just as we speak. Visual testing is a tool. There's one tool that I've actually used. It's called Ably tool. They've been around for a while before ChatGPT. It's visual testing is basically you give it a screenshot of your application and you tell it, okay, this is the true correct application. Now, in your automation, every time you run your automation, you're going to take a screenshot, you're going to send it to them to their that tool, that Apply tool. And using AI is visually going to compare. It's not going to Selenium and stuff. They rely on elements. They're going to rely on there's a button there, there's a heading there, there is that. They're looking at individual sections of the page. But visual is like eyes, like as you and I, when we test it, we visually look at it and we can say, hey, this page looks different than this. This one is blue. This one is a little bit darker blue. We can see that. We can say, oh, this the text is correct, but this text is a little bit up. The next, like if I move this guy up a little bit, we can tell, you and I can tell this is a little off. Right? Like let's say this, I'm testing this page here. We can tell this is not doesn't look right. It's a little bit too close to the top. Selenium can't. Selenium is going to say, oh, yeah, the heading is there. It's good to go. If I never done that. I don't think anybody does that, but you could implement, right, complicated logic that will calculate, count pixels and stuff in Selenium. You can say the width, the location, the height. You can do some calculation and figure out, oh yeah, it should be, but I don't think anybody would do that. But visually, we can see this is wrong. So there are AI tools that can, just like us, visually, they will look at it and be like, oh, wait, the screenshot you told me is actually like that. This one looks a little off, right? So there is visual testing. I think they're pretty powerful. I use that. They have free trials, so you guys feel free to explore them. Flaky test detection. Like I said earlier, one of the biggest issues we have is tests are flaky. They pass sometimes, they fail sometimes. So if you have a dashboard like this, like mine, like the dashboard I created, all this comes from a database. So you have all the data in the database, and you can have AI analyze it and tell you which one is flaky, which one is not, and you can even look into the logs and figure out why it is being flaky. Root cause analysis, basically you can give it access to logs and to the application code itself, not just the test code, the application itself, and you can just figure out what the problem is. That's what root cause analysis is. I can really see this being very useful. Test prioritization, basically you write a bunch of tests, the priority is not the same. Some tests are more important than others. AI will help you with that. Test data generation, manual testers, you're very familiar with this. A lot of times we have to come up with data for tests. Sometimes we have to come up with lots of data. Think about like, let's say you're doing load testing. You need 1 million users. You got to create 1 million email addresses. Then AI can generate that quite easily for you, even though Python could do it also. But test data generation, API semantic testing, with this word, it didn't make sense to me at first, but then I read the explanation. It's API testing, but it's not just checking individual fields, it's actually doing more thinking, like does it make sense type of thing. So looking at the API and be like, hey, does it even make sense? As opposed to you telling it, hey, in automation, normally you're going to say, like, check this code, check this field, check that field, but AI can have a bigger picture. Exploratory testing assistance, self-explanatory. Bug triage, basically you have tons of bugs that are reported, and usually in a sprint world, you would meet every 2 weeks if it's a 2 week sprint, and you do a triage. You'll say you're basically going through you usually meet with a product manager or a project manager and engineers, and you say this bug is important, let's work on this first, let's work on this next. AI can help you with that. Risk-based testing prediction. Basically, AI can analyze the risk and gives you ideas. So all those you can, as you can see, they are fancy, powerful. So that's those are the applications for AI that I'm seeing in that I think are realistic. Now, another thing I did is I took like 20, 30 YouTube. I just searched for AI in testing and took those links. And there is this thing called Notebook LM. I don't know if I should share it here. There's Google Notebook LM where you can give it a lot of sources. Look it up. It's awesome. No, Google Notebook LM. You can give it a lot of sources, including YouTube links, and it will basically read the transcript of all those YouTube videos. And now you can just talk to it. It knows about those YouTube videos. So I gave it tons of YouTube links that are about API, AI and testing. And I said, what are the tools that people talk about? And it came up with 11 different tools, right? So people are building this AI tool. Some are just marketing BS, some might be good. So there are tools that are AI based, but they're just coming out. They're just getting started. So as a testers, just be familiar with using AI. It's not just going to ChatGPT and asking questions, but actually asking it questions in a more structured way, using prompts, getting to prompt engineering, understand what prompt engineering are, learn how to use the APIs, build applications. Once you learn basic Python, you can build small applications that are using AI, like test case generation that I mentioned that I'm building. I don't know if I have it here. Uh, I don't think I have that test case. I think I have it in a different workspace or something. I never imported it here or something like that. So you basically I make an API call saying, hey, I have a page that does this, give me test cases. In OpenAI, I'm using the API, OpenAI's API. It will respond in a formatted way. Then my application, my Python will read that and then uploads it into some storage. So build stuff with API. Be familiar with open API using AI APIs so you can put them on your resume. So that's really what I recommend when it comes to AI because it's still quite new in in um, in our world. So I do recommend supersqa.com for resources. I have the live bootcamp that is basically you learn everything we talked about today and you get coaching. It's not just that's why it's a bootcamp because in this live you get coaching, you get to work with me. We meet twice a week. I can pull it up here. supersqa.com/bootcamp. So the schedule is Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. for East Coast folks. Where is the schedule? Right. Starts May 6th. It's 6 months, but 3 months live, right? Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern for the first 3 months. Then we meet once a month. After that, for 3 months, and the price is this, but I do have a discount for you. It's $2,500 right now. I'll give you $20 for this bootcamp, 20% off, not $20 out of 2,500. So you can just use this coupon, special off 20 to get $500 off for this bootcamp. So it's 3 months, you and I working together. It's a small group. I have a maximum of 20. Normally I have about 10 people, so I get to really know you and work on your actual work. I review your work. You write code, I review it. And it's not just testing, it is more about development, the whole engineering, right? SDET, software development engineering and test. So you get exposure to like the whole environment of working in a company. That's really what I try to simulate is you're not just learning like the actual hard skills of like, oh, how to do stuff in Python, how to do stuff in Python. It's not just that. In addition to that, it's a full-on experience, pretty much. But the most valuable part is the coaching and the mentorship. I think that's the most important part out of all that. So check it out. It is next week. First day of class is exactly a week from today. Like next week, this time we will be in class. The first homework is basically to just learn Python. Go watch the self-paced courses. So I have a self-paced. Do I have the link here? Again, yeah, it's QA automation training. But if you just go to like supersqa.com, you'll find everything there. There's also if you don't want to do the bootcamp, the only reason you wouldn't want to do the bootcamp is the price. Like I understand it's not a little bit of money. It is significant amount of money, but it is cheaper. The program I checked out is $11,000 and your first month's salary. I'm like, that is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And they're big companies, so you don't get that personal attention. Nobody's going to review your work. That's for sure. But if you don't want to do the boot camp, I do have this self-paced video type of courses. There's a roadmap, a whole roadmap on what it will guide you to what you need to be doing. It's $300. Again, the same coupon will work 20% off. So make sure you use that, take advantage of it. It's a great program. The bootcamp is awesome. You guys would love it. You could book a Zoom one-on-one with me. Again, on the same page and the bootcamp page, there is a link that says book a meeting with me. You guys can book a meeting. We can talk about it and we can see if it's the right thing for you. It might not be for everybody. The schedule matters, right? Your goal matters. Like if you're doing manual testing, obviously that's not going to do it. If you want to do manual testing, you don't need to do that. That is for automation. And I think everybody do need to get into automation these days. In terms of contacts, you've been getting emails from me, so you already have my email, but it's admas@supersqa.com. Give me a call anytime. I'm in the West Coast, just consider that. Other than that, give me a call anytime. I should be able to respond. That's pretty much it. Take that $500 off advantage on the bootcamp. It was actually early bird pricing $2,000 and it just went up to 2,500 last night. But you guys can basically still keep the early bird pricing, use that coupon. If you have any issue with that coupon, let me know. We will figure it out. Okay. Uh yeah, that's pretty much it. So let me unmute. I'll look at the chat, the questions. Let me unmuting. Uh Allow unmute themselves. So you are free to unmute and ask questions, but I'm gonna look at the chat. Meanwhile, YouTube handle is Super SQA. Everything is pretty much Super SQA. LinkedIn, TikTok also Super SQA. Okay, Super SQA one actually, Super SQA one. All right, let me just scroll up all the way. Is manual QA going to go out of the market? I wouldn't say it would completely go. It's getting reduced for sure. It would never go away. You can't automate everything. And there are businesses, there are companies that their product, it just wouldn't make sense to automate. If you have a product that's changing every week, you just want to manually test it and just put it out. Because when you automate something, it is something that's going to stay for a long time. So you can continuously testing. But if it's completely changing every week, then you don't want to invest in automating it. So it will always be around, but a lot less of it. A lot less of it. And like I mentioned earlier, even manual positions these days, they are asking for automation skills. They say the job title says manual, but when you look at the requirements, I'm sure you guys seen that, they say automation. So manual is not going anywhere, but yeah, it's been reduced a lot. And that's been happening for years. It's nothing new. Okay, Microsoft Azure is big. What is the main subject I need to focus on? Within David, I don't know if you hear, within Microsoft Azure, I actually don't know. I don't use my Microsoft Azure, but you need to look at there's like different components. Even in AWS, it's hard to answer that question. AWS has many things. I normally would say start with S3 because that's just storage. It's like Google Drive on steroids. Start with that. You get to see how the platform works. Then you go to like batch, then you go to ECS or SNS. There's different components, and which one do I need to learn? That will depend. I can give you a list. You can just hit me up. Azure is big. Yeah, Azure is popular, especially in government. How much information you need to know about Python to get a job? Basics. That's the beauty of QA. If Python is this big, as an automation engineer, we need to know about this much, right? You just need to know the basics. To be able to write automation code, you need to know basic Python. Basic Python will do enough. You're not building full blown applications. You're building automation code. So the more you know, the better, of course. But just knowing the basics, the core components like loops, if-else statements, exception handling, files, APIs. If you know those things, you'll be able to build stuff. So that is one advantage of automation is if you are to become an automation and if you are to become a full stack engineer, the amount of learning you got to do, automation is a lot less. Then once you're doing automation, it's so much easier to grow into full stack because basically you have time. Now you're working, now you already have skill set. It's easier to just build up on top of that. Okay. So not a whole lot. What's your YouTube side handle? Super SQA. Uh, understand test cases. Great. Thank you. Thank you, CC, for the feedback. I need to leave. We'll be in contact. Good night. Thank you. Uh, Also, the Zoom classes are so I'm in Pacific, so it's 5 p.m. for me. For East Coasters, it's 8 p.m. Most people are on the East Coast. I didn't know this until I was doing research because of my bootcamp. 80% of US population is in the East Coast. In that sense, I lived all my life in the West Coast. I lived all my life, most of my, well, first part of my life until I was a teenager, I was in Ethiopia, East Africa. And then I was in Bay Area for 20 something years in San Francisco Bay Area. And about 3 years ago, well, now 4 years, I moved to Las Vegas. Now I live in Las Vegas. Um, and I did not know 80% of US population lives in the East Coast. That's crazy. That's when I start to do all my promotion. When I put times, I put East Coast time. Even here, you see that I put East Coast time. So it's 8 p.m. Eastern. So it's for 2 hours, Tuesdays and Thursdays, for 3 months. Okay. All right. Any questions, guys? I
Yeah.
caught up with the
Oh,
chat. Yeah.
yeah, I have a questions. I
Yeah.
signed up for a boot camp and I'm wondering like how much we're gonna have classes for APIs and for backend testing, like for data analysis, besides just learning Python and
A significant amount. So when it comes to testing, we do half-half. I'll try to focus on half-half. Like even your final project, like the project for the certificate, is one of the requirements is automate 100 test cases. And I don't, and you can do 50% front end, 50% back end, but I don't dictate that. As long as you do some back end, I don't say you have to do like 50-50. It's up to you because some people prefer one versus the other. But I definitely focus a lot on API. In fact, we learn about what APIs are. We spend a session on that. Then we build a small app, like the command line app that uses API, just to to understand how APIs are used in real life. This trivia quiz type of application, and then we'll talk about testing it. So about half of the tests we do in class are API testing. Data analytics is something else. We don't do data analytics. We do SQL, but at a basic level, because just like the example earlier, when you're doing automation, you make an API call to make something happen, then you want to make sure that actually happened. And the way you do that is one way is to make another API call that says get. You say post API call that creates something. Then you say get an API call, right? To make sure whatever you did actually happened. Another thing is you go to the database and you check it actually happened. So we use SQL in that regard. So not a lot. But I do have, as part of the bootcamp and the self-paced, I do have a full SQL course. And I'll give you that as a homework after the bootcamp to make sure to finish it. During the bootcamp, I'll tell you, go watch the first few videos so you learn how to read data. After the bootcamp, I say, hey, go finish the course so you learn how to write data. So yeah, that definitely a big part of the bootcamp is APIs. That is my favorite in terms of like front end versus back end. I choose back end any day I'll choose back end. Initially, front end seems like it's easier, but back end is much easier than front end. It's just more fun. That answers the
right.
question, Tatiana?
Yep, yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So no problem. I'll see you next week. And before that, as you already know, you can call me and we can sit and talk anytime. You already have 100% access. Okay?
Perfect.
Hi, this is
Thanks.
Claire. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
It's Claire. I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
So, when you say we need to learn Python before, are you saying that that's a prerequisite of coming into the boot camp?
No, no, no. I'm
What?
no.
What?
It helps if you start early.
Okay.
Since it's a game of practice, right? Python is a lot of practice.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you start early, right? For example, now you have a week, right? If you was to
Mm-hmm.
start today, you already have a week head start. So it makes it
Okay.
easier for you. But we're literally going to spend the first 2 to 3 weeks of the bootcamp doing Python.
Okay. It's just like in not coming in cold. That's why, just to get familiar with it, right?
Yeah,
Before the bootcamp. Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Because I have, so even what happens is I do have this self-paced video courses, right? There's like eight of
Mm-hmm.
them. One of them is Python. So next
Mm-hmm.
week at this time, when I give you homework, the homework is going to be, hey, go watch the Python video course up
Mm-hmm.
to halfway. Then the week after, I'm going to give you the homework, say, hey, go finish that course. Then
Okay.
during the live sessions, we'll talk about exercises, real life applications, and things like that because it doesn't make sense to do like tutorial of basic Python in the live session because the live sessions are precious. I want to make sure we take advantage of those. So,
Mm-hmm.
so the homework will be to watch the videos and we talk about it in class. So definitely not a prerequisite, but an advantage to start early.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Thank you for being here. Oh, wow. I did not even look at the time. I am 15 minutes over. I'm going to stay around, answer questions, but I do want to thank everybody for showing up and sorry for taking up that much time. I was doing really great with time, but I think at around the end, I lost track. Um, so thank you guys. I appreciate it. And I'm very much accessible, guys. Let me put the slide back. But on my website here, you have all the information you want. Okay. You can click on book a meeting, which will take you to like a calendar where you can just book a Zoom meeting. Just meet with me. We sit and we'll talk one on one, figure it out if it's right fit for you or not. You can just pick up the phone and just give me a call. All right. And of course, email. Just contact me, ask any questions if you don't want to ask questions right now. Put it in the chat if you're too shy to speak. But I am here to answer your questions, and I'll try to get this recording out to you guys, including the PDF. I'll try to figure out a way to do that. Yeah, I should be able to do that. Thank you, Claire.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Nice presentation. Yeah.
See you next week. Thank you. Appreciate
Good
that.
night. Thank you.
Good night, Claire. All right. Anybody else? Hey, Milena. I didn't notice. There's so many. Yeah, yeah, me too. I'm excited. I'm always excited to start the new batch, new interaction. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of work. That's the one thing. It is work. It's on you. I'm merely your GPS. I'm just here to in the boot camp. I'm just guiding you, giving you information. You do the work. So you have to prepare for doing work. It's real. It's engineering, right? You are becoming an engineer in 3 months. So you have to have that expectation. You're going to put in some work. But the commitment is like it's not like a college when it's ends, it ends. Like our relationship is going to continue as long as you need my support. I have people from 2 years ago, from a year ago that we constantly talk, go back and forth. I'm their like a mentor or a coach, whatever you like to call it. That's the big point of the bootcamp is that mentorship, coaching, and just learning the whole software development. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. I'm glad you guys liked the presentation. I really am. I put in, prepare for it. I try to give value, not fluff, not marketing. I try to hold the marketing stuff to the end, to give you all the value on it. I want to earn your trust, right? I want to make sure you know that I know what I'm talking about and all of that. Thank you, Kiara. Have a great night. No questions, guys. Everything is clear. That makes me feel like I've explained things good. If there are no questions, still a few people here, so I'll stick around. If there's anything you want to see, you can do that. It's not just technical question. If you want to see some of the things I just showed, if you want to look at it again, let me know. I can put it up and I can show you. If you have any other questions, let me know. Piece of advice, you guys be serious about AI. You guys have to be very serious about AI. Get into it, look into it. On your social media, make sure you follow people that are doing AI, right? Don't just when you're scrolling, make sure AI stuff shows up. I'm not sure, Dalu. I'm not sure if I'm going to post the recording on YouTube. I've done it previously. I don't know if I will do that. I'm definitely going to send you an email with a link. I'm going to post it on my website on a page, and I'll send you the link. That I know. I will do that. YouTube, I'll decide. It's a great presentation, right? So I should probably post it. Why not? I probably will. Now that you got me thinking, I probably will post it on YouTube. Okay. I probably should do that and just send you that link. That way I can also get viewers, subscribers, and things like that. Yeah, about AI, guys. Please pay attention to AI, not just in testing in general, like, creating apps. I've never been so much easier. There's like 16, 17-year-olds making millions, building stuff. But I'm not going to be like most people saying, like, you don't need to learn anything. You just go on AI and build stuff. You'll build it for you. It's like that is a truth that is a false, if that makes sense. It's a truth that doesn't make sense. Because I use it. I use an app called Cursor. Maybe I should put it up here. Cursor, is it cursor.com? Or is it cursor.ai? Yeah, Cursor, I guess cursor.com. So this app, it looks like VS Code. It's an IDE, but on the left side of it, I actually have it right here. On the left side of it, there's a chat like ChatGPT, and you just tell it what you want. You're going to be like, I want to build a website that does this, and it will just build it. But it makes so much mistake. You have to intervene. You have to go in there and be like, oh, you did this, do this, can you do this, or the error. A lot of times you can tell it the error. You can just say, oh, this is the error. You can just copy paste the error. It will fix it. But oh my God, like there will be a small error, and it's trying to fix that error, and it creates a much bigger error. And so if you know the basics, you can guide it, right? You have to know a little bit, but by knowing a little bit, you can do so much, man. So I really want to encourage you guys to look into it. That I'm looking into it. Eventually, I do want to start building apps. This QA app is one of the things I'm going to build. Make sure you give me a follow on YouTube, so that you'll be up to date. YouTube slash Super SQA, Super SQA. I can put it in the chat also, but I'm easy to find. As my channel, I'm not very active, but I plan to be. Okay? And if you're totally new to software testing, on the free course on my website, Software Testing Fundamentals, definitely check that out. But the bootcamp is an awesome. I was going to sneeze, but it went away. The bootcamp is an awesome program, guys. Make sure you guys take advantage of it. All right, so I am going to stop the recording here. Maybe some people just don't want to talk because it's being recorded. You never know. But thank you for joining, everybody, and everybody watching the recording. Thank you for watching. Make sure you can hit me up for questions at any time.